how it all gets done. That's the plumbing. Anyway, all right, thanks.
I'm sorry I missed last night, and I'm looking forward to seeing the tape. What I've heard is a lot about connectivity, and I think that is something that the Love Sculpture promoted. And I think when we were students that there was, even in those days, more connectivity between masters and students than there are today. When we went to St. Paul's, we had a bunch of masters who gave a damn, and they were all over it helping us figure it out. Whether it was Cliff Gillespie or Bud Blake or Mita or whoever, you know, we all had masters who were there for us and were helping us, and they were connected with us, and they gave a damn about us. They treated us almost like their kids. It was that kind of connection. And St. Paul's was a special place because the administration also gave us all the tools to be able to think about college, think about what colleges, think about how to take advantage of what those colleges had to offer us, okay? I'll give you an example. I took Latin and Greek here, 4 years of Greek. Why did I do that? Was it to get out of sacred studies? Yes, it was. But what other reason? You know, yes, I developed a love of literature, language, all of that sort of thing. But also I knew that if I took 4 years of Greek, I could go to any college in the United States. I knew that. Ronnie Clark told me so. And Ronnie didn't give me a lot of help, but he told me that. He told me that. And so when I was thinking about, okay, what do I want to do? Where could I go? What would I like to do? How would I like to, what's my next step? One thing I knew was I wanted to go a long ways away from New Hampshire, okay? I also knew that Stanford had the 4th best classics department in the country. So when we had that interview and the guy said, would you study classics? I said, you bet. And I was the only classics major in my class at Stanford, okay? And they sent me to Germany, and they sent me to Italy, and I became connected. And what's going on in the world is, for our parents, it was the United States, and now it is global, and it is about connectivity. And one of the things the school doesn't do is help us connect with the rest of the world, whether our issue is the environment or whatever you want it to be. We're not really preparing students in the connected way. We talk about the internet as a great way to do all of that, and I don't disagree. But there is nothing like face-to-face, living in their shoes, doing their thing, so that when it comes time to make the world a better place and you're trying to build a bridge with a guy on the other side of the table, you have a better shot. It's about connectivity. How we work in that direction, I don't know. But I think you're onto something when you start talking about, you know, the love sculpture, something. But let's talk about connectivity. And all of us have the opportunity to share connections and our connectivity across all different ways and give that in a way to the school. It's just a thought.
It's interesting listening and seeing this film, that at age 17 and 18 we thought we had it all figured out. We had all the answers. We knew how important it was to be able to smoke. and now we're struggling to figure out what the next series of questions are. From my perspective, I've got bad news and then good news relative to the school. I think the bad news is that the school thinks that its model now is the right one. And there are, with all due respect to the people there, Bill, hi, and all the other folks within the administration, I think that they've got it figured out, and I think that they know what the important and salient issues are, and they're not particularly interested in anybody who's going to ask a difficult question. The good news, however, is that I think that there are a lot of us, not just in this room, but a lot of us all over the place, who are much more interested in really what the next series of phases are going to be in the school. Each of us have got lots of different things that we're involved in, individually and collectively. So realistically, although in this room we're all brothers and sisters, St. Paul's is but a small fraction of the amount of effort that we can contribute to anything, right? I mean, it really is. However, I believe that the power of the ideas, or the ones we have, whether it's building a something for our 50th, or whether it's Nat's very emotionally and powerfully compelling argument about the environment. I think that there are others who want that to be something that's important, and who want somebody to lead that effort. And I say, why not us? Why can't we do that? Because we are this transitional and fulcrum form, and I believe that the power of our collective voices. And by the way, from my perspective, if we're going to do anything at all, we're going to need the leverage to be able to get the school to buy into what we're doing. Because our form at all, and by the way, all of this ultimately translates into money, right? Because that's what the school is interested in, is money. But the power of the intellectual capital is going to be driven by, what ideas we can come up with. And the only way that I think that we can do that is to leverage it with other forms and other groups. And I say, why not this group? I mean, in the past, couple of 3 years, I've spent more time with different people and have heard from different folks about, unbelievably powerful things that are possibilities. Now, do I know what all those things are? No. Do all of us? No. But, there's a start. You're a start. You're a start, Trace. Help lead us through that process. And I believe, as I said, that, the good news is, why not us?
The guys in this room aren't too smart, are they? So first I'd like to thank Tom Egelhart, because I think there was a wonderful measurement and timing to that film that spoke exactly to who we all are. And I got to think about who we all are, and it keeps coming up about us again. Second thing is I'd like to thank Bill Abbey, who I miss a lot, and who got my life going here at St. Paul's, and also provided the freedom, which is where that sculpture came from. I'm sure you all know that. And then the third thing was, and I'll say something after that, is I got a chance to work on a reunion, like a book. 25th. And I apologize for those of you who are stupid enough not to submit stuff and your wife's bawled you out. But I wish I'd put something in there for those I missed. I apologize for that. But I had to hire somebody to help me. I wound up marrying the woman that I hired to do the SPS thing. And I have 2 kids, 12 and 14 years old. And to the point, I am now in the conundrum of trying to figure out could they come to St. Paul's and be students here, which is, as far as I'm concerned, this very conversation is what it's all about. It's not a question of, is this a good school? Okay, I came here after seeing Groton and St. George's and all the rest of them. They were all a joke as far as I was concerned. When I came to St. Paul's, this was it. Okay, I still feel that way. And then I keep hearing it's us, it's us, it's us, it's us. I look at the intellectual capital, forget it, the brains in this room. I don't know how to organize the brains in this room. I haven't got a freaking clue. There's the internet and so on and so forth. But Maury was saying, is it us? Is it now? I think there is something about connecting who we are with a school as it is right now, with the teachers and the students right now. Maybe it's good to focus on a single issue just to practice and get that discipline of our mentoring or our contribution connected directly to the school, connected. I don't know how to do that. I know by talking to you guys, if I ever forgot how smart you are, okay, I wonder if you guys could talk to each other though. Okay, so that's my challenge. Okay, so what? Okay, so what? Okay, so can we actually use some of that together and talk to them? Steve?
It's hard to be here having worked in independent schools for the last 33 years because it gives the impression I'm supposed to know something, which I don't think I really do. But I'd like to put in some ways a good word for the money, because I teach at a school that really doesn't have the kind of resources that St. Paul's has. And there isn't a week that goes by in the winter when I'm working on the admissions committee when I'm not aware that St. Paul's is essentially need blind, that the school can really admit the students it wants and come up with the money to bring them there. And that's a wonderful thing. And the school that I teach at, which has and when I went there, it had an endowment of $350,000 and now has somewhere in the vicinity of 20 million, I think. That's pretty close to, not so far from the draw that St. Paul's takes down every year from its endowment. So there's a lot of value to having that. At my school, we have a lot of people that want to come, or a fair number of people that want to come, and a huge amount of them can't afford it. It's really kind of dysfunctional because what we're doing is marketing a very expensive product to people who can't afford it. If we were actually to reach need blind, I think we'd probably be over 60% of the students on financial aid. And what we have is a lot of pain and struggle and people who are offered about half of what they need to go comfortably and things like that. When I was at Exeter, they were at 33%, and they figured if they could get to 35% of the students on financial aid, they'd be hitting need blind. What interests me is that even though St. Paul's is functionally need blind, the percentage of students on financial aid is a little lower than that. And it's a great education, we all know that. And I think that it's not a problem of money. I don't think it's a problem with the school not wanting them there. It may be a problem of connectivity, of how do you get in touch with people who don't necessarily know of your existence and begin to try to expand that group a little bit. So I think that there's a number of opportunities for St. Paul's to use its money, I wouldn't say more wisely, but perhaps a little more cagely. And I think the answer may actually be, in part, in connecting and in human connections, as opposed to trying to do it with just the money.
I wanted to say a couple of things about the school. And one of them was that in the movie tonight, the film, I was struck by something Bill Oates said when he was talking about trying to predict what SPS students would need in the future. And he talked about 1985 as the future, which itself was interesting. And he said, what will happen to them after college and after graduate school, not when they start working or not when they get a job. He said, what will happen to them when they start doing something for others? And that struck me as remarkable because it was part of the ethos of SPS. And I hope it's still part of the ethos of SPS, that it's a place that is about preparing people to go out in the world, and whatever we do, whether we're in finance or education or working in a nonprofit, that we're trying to do something for other people. So I would say that one of my hopes for the school would be that it would preserve that ethos, which ties in a bit with the question of ethics that Alec raised. The other thing that I have a sense of, but I'm not certain about, is that in sort of the American educational landscape, we are likely to think of Penn or Princeton or Harvard or St. Paul's or Groton as institutions that are part of that landscape.